When men reach their 60s, 70s, and even 80s, they begin to notice changes in their bodies that can feel confusing, frustrating, or even a little embarrassing. One of the most sensitive of these changes is the feeling that manhood itself, the penis, isn't quite what it used to be. It may look different in the mirror, feel different in the bedroom, or respond differently when you need it most. And here's the surprising part. Often it has nothing to do with age itself, but with the little habits tucked inside your everyday routine. That's why today's message carries both a warning and a hope. Your daily routine could be quietly shrinking your penis, but you can do something about it. Let me share the story of Harold, a 72-year-old gentleman who came into my office with his wife. He was soft-spoken, a little embarrassed, but he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Doctor, I feel like I'm losing part of myself." He wasn't talking about his memory or his stamina. He was talking about his manhood. Over the last decade, he'd noticed a gradual change in both size and function, and he thought it was just nature taking its course. But as we spoke, it became clear that his everyday lifestyle, things he thought were harmless, were contributing directly to the problem. That's when he realized this wasn't just about getting old. It was about making choices that either protect or weaken circulation, hormones, and tissue health. For those of you meeting me for the first time, I'm Dr. Nolan Easton. I've spent over 30 years working as a men's health specialist, walking alongside men through the challenges of aging and helping them find confidence and vitality again. I want you to know this. What you're experiencing is not just in your head, and you don't have to accept decline as inevitable. There are solutions, and they often start by looking closely at the small routines we barely think about. Now, you might be wondering, how can a daily routine actually change the size or health of a man's penis? It comes down to three simple but powerful forces: circulation, hormones, and tissue elasticity. Imagine your penis like a sponge. It needs blood flow to expand fully. If circulation is poor, it doesn't fill the way it used to. If hormones are imbalanced, the signals to your body weaken. And if tissues lose their stretch, they shrink and harden over time. Every cup of coffee late at night that steals your sleep, every chair you sit in for hours without moving, every processed meal that sneaks into your diet, they quietly chip away at these three forces. And little by little, the results show where it matters most. Harold's case was no different. He had fallen into habits that millions of men share. He was sitting in his recliner most of the day, eating more convenience foods, staying up too late scrolling on his tablet, and not drinking enough water. None of these seemed dangerous on their own, but together they created a storm that slowly drained his circulation, dulled his hormones, and stiffened his tissues. By the time he noticed the changes, he thought it was too late. But here's where the hope lies. It wasn't. I tell Harold's story because it mirrors the experience of so many men watching right now. Maybe you've felt your manhood isn't as full or firm as it once was. Maybe you've looked down and thought, is it me or is it smaller than it used to be? If that thought has crossed your mind, you're not imagining it. The good news is, once you understand what's happening, you can start to fight back. And that's exactly why we're here today. I want to pause for a moment and speak directly to you. If what I'm saying hits home, if you've noticed these quiet changes creeping in, do me a favor. Tap the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss these conversations. And most importantly, I'd love for you to leave me a simple yes or no in the comments below. Do you feel that your manhood isn't what it used to be? I read through your answers myself, and they help me bring you advice that's tailored to your reality. So don't be shy. Your feedback matters. Now, back to Harold. The most eye-opening part of his visit was when I asked him about his daily routine. He woke up around 9 a.m., skipped breakfast, had 2 cups of coffee, then sat in his chair reading the paper until lunch. Lunch was usually a sandwich on white bread with deli meat. followed by another long stretch of sitting. By evening, he was tired but not sleepy, so he'd snack on chips while watching TV until nearly midnight. He thought of himself as retired and relaxed. But what he didn't realize was that this relaxed lifestyle was starving his manhood of the very things it needed to stay alive and strong. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Your routine is either feeding your vitality or draining it. For Harold, the routine was draining it. When we started making small but steady adjustments, walking after breakfast, switching his sandwich to whole grains and lean proteins, setting a cutoff time for screens and caffeine, things began to change. Not overnight, but gradually. The circulation improved, his energy rose, and yes, his manhood responded. His wife even came to thank me personally, saying she felt like she had her husband back. What does that mean for you? It means your daily choices matter more than you think. And it means there's hope, even if you feel you've been on the wrong path for years. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond make changes that gave them back a sense of youth, confidence, and intimacy. You're never too old to start. As we dive deeper into this journey, I want you to carry one truth with you. Shrinking isn't just a destiny of age, it's often a warning sign from your body. And just as Harold discovered, when you listen to that warning and adjust your daily routine, the body has an incredible way of bouncing back. It may not return you to your 20s, but it can restore strength, fullness, and pride in a way that keeps you feeling alive. So if you've ever felt like Harold, wondering where your manhood has gone, stay with me. You'll learn how simple, senior-friendly shifts in your daily routine can protect your circulation, restore your hormones, and keep your tissues supple. And that's the first step in making sure your manhood remains a source of confidence, not worry, in the years ahead. When Harold and I sat down to map out his new daily routine, the first thing I told him was this: the penis is not an isolated organ. It doesn't live in a vacuum. It depends on the heart, the blood vessels, the hormones produced in your brain, even the oxygen you pull into your lungs every morning. If those systems are sluggish or neglected, the manhood pays the price. That's why a shrinking penis is often the body's way of whispering something deeper is wrong. And if we ignore that whisper, it turns into a shout in the form of health problems, diabetes, heart disease, erectile dysfunction. But if we listen early, we can often reverse the tide. One of the biggest culprits I see is sitting. I know it sounds too simple, but the truth is, long hours in a chair cut off circulation to the pelvic region. Over time, that poor blood flow weakens the very tissues that are supposed to stretch and fill. Harold had spent years in his recliner, thinking he was giving his body rest. In reality, his manhood was being starved of blood and oxygen. That's why I encouraged him to start with something easy. Stand up every hour. Walk to the kitchen, step outside for a few breaths of fresh air, stretch your legs. Movement is like oil to rusty joints. It keeps things flowing, including blood where you want it most. But circulation isn't the only player. Sleep is another silent thief. When Harold admitted he was staying up until midnight most nights, I asked him if he felt rested in the morning. He laughed and said, "Doctor, I don't even remember the last time I woke up feeling fresh." That's when I explained something most men don't realize. Testosterone, the hormone that fuels male vitality, is produced during deep sleep. If you cheat yourself of rest, you cheat your body of the very hormone that keeps your manhood alive and strong. It's no wonder so many men complain of shrinking and weakening when their nights are restless. Harold took this advice to heart and began winding down earlier. He set a bedtime routine, turning off screens, dimming the lights, even sipping a calming tea. Within weeks, not only did his energy improve, but his wife noticed he was more affectionate and engaged again. His wife even told me, with tears in her eyes, "I feel like I have my partner back." That is the power of these small but steady changes. And here's the truth. Harold's story is not unique.
I've seen dozens of men his age turn their lives around simply by listening to what their shrinking manhood was trying to tell them. It's not a punishment, it's a warning signal, a call to action. And for those who answer that call, the rewards are profound. Better health, better energy, better intimacy, and a renewed sense of self-worth. You see, the biggest danger isn't the shrinking itself, it's the silence. Too many men suffer alone, never speaking to their doctors, never telling their partners, and never making changes because they think it's hopeless. But it's not. Your daily routine is the battlefield where decline or recovery is decided. And you hold the power to choose which side you fight on. So when you wake up tomorrow, I want you to ask yourself, am I feeding my manhood life, or am I starving it without realizing it? The answer lies in how you sit, how you sleep, how you eat, and how you move. Harold chose to fight back, and if he can at 72, then so can you.
When Harold returned for his 3-month follow-up, I barely recognized the man who had first shuffled into my office with his head down. His skin had more color, his handshake was firmer, and there was a quiet confidence in his eyes. He told me he was walking every morning now, that he and Margaret were going to bed earlier together, and that he had cut out the late-night snacks. Most importantly, he leaned in with a small smile and said, "Doctor, I think the old spark is coming back." That moment reminded me of why I do this work. Not just to treat bodies, but to restore dignity, intimacy, and hope. You see, what Harold experienced wasn't a miracle. It was biology responding to consistent, nurturing choices. Blood vessels opened up, tissues softened and stretched again, and hormones began to flow at healthier levels. This is what happens when the body gets what it needs. And I want every man listening to understand that this same possibility exists for you, no matter your age. But there's another piece to this puzzle: stress. Stress is one of the most overlooked daily routines, quietly shrinking men's manhood. Harold confessed that he had carried years of unspoken worry about money, health, and even his relationship with his children. He thought keeping it bottled up made him strong. But in reality, stress was robbing his body of circulation and hormones. When we're under constant stress, the body produces cortisol, a hormone that directly interferes with testosterone. Think of it like a tug of war. The more cortisol wins, the more testosterone loses. And without testosterone, tissues shrink, energy fades, and desire disappears. I asked Harold to try something simple. Each morning, after his walk, he sat down with a cup of tea and practiced slow, deep breathing for 10 minutes. At first he laughed, saying it felt silly. But over time, those quiet minutes became his anchor. He told me he felt calmer, more in control, and even more patient with Margaret. That inner peace wasn't just good for his mind, it was medicine for his manhood. Stress reduction is as vital as exercise or diet when it comes to protecting what makes you feel like a man. Another daily routine that takes men by surprise is dehydration. It may sound harmless, but when you don't drink enough water, your blood thickens and circulation slows. That sluggish blood has a harder time reaching the delicate vessels of the penis, and the result is weaker, smaller, less reliable function. Harold admitted he barely drank 2 glasses of water a day before our talks. Now he carries a water bottle with him and sips throughout the day. Within weeks, he said his energy and alertness improved, and yes, he noticed a difference in fullness when it mattered most. And let's not forget movement. I don't mean running marathons or lifting heavy weights. For seniors, movement can be as simple as walking, light stretching, or gentle resistance bands. The goal is to keep blood flowing and muscles engaged, because the penis is surrounded by muscles that help trap and maintain blood during intimacy. If those muscles weaken, so does function. Harold added light squats and simple pelvic floor exercises into his routine. He was amazed at how something so easy made him feel stronger, more stable, and more alive in his body.
Now, I know some of you listening may be thinking, Doctor, this all sounds good, but isn't shrinking just part of getting older? And I understand why you would think that. But the truth is, much of what we call aging is actually the slow wear and tear of unhealthy habits. The body is incredibly forgiving when you give it what it needs. I've seen men in their late 70s reverse problems they thought were permanent. So no, it's not too late, and it's not something you have to accept as your fate. Let me pause here for a moment, because I want to hear from you. If you've ever noticed stress, dehydration, or lack of movement affecting your energy, your mood, or even your manhood, would you type yes in the comments? And if not, type no. Every answer helps me understand what you're going through, so I can keep creating advice that meets you where you are. And if you haven't already, please click the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so these messages keep reaching you. Think of it as a small routine in itself, one that invests in your health and well-being. Back to Harold. His story is a reminder that change doesn't have to be complicated. He didn't overhaul his entire life overnight. He simply replaced harmful habits with healing ones, one at a time. Instead of sitting all morning, he started walking. Instead of processed food, he chose fresh options. Instead of staying up late with screens, he went to bed earlier. Instead of holding on to stress, he learned to breathe it away. And instead of living dehydrated, he filled his glass with water. Each shift added a layer of strength back to his manhood, and together they created transformation. Margaret noticed the difference too. She told me that for years she had quietly worried about losing intimacy forever. But now, she said, it feels like we're rediscovering each other. Their laughter returned, their affection grew warmer, and their connection deepened, not just physically, but emotionally. Harold's shrinking wasn't just reversed in the body, it was reversed in his marriage, in his confidence, and in the way he carried himself as a man. And that, my friends, is why I share his story with you. Because I know so many men watching right now feel what Harold once felt, like you're slowly losing something precious and you don't know how to get it back. The truth is, your daily routine is the most powerful medicine you'll ever take. And if you're willing to make small, steady changes, you'll not only protect your manhood, but restore a part of yourself you thought was gone forever. When Harold came in for his 6-month checkup, he wasn't just healthier, he was transformed. He sat taller, he laughed louder, and there was no trace of the shame or embarrassment he carried the first day he walked into my office. He said, "Doctor, I didn't think it was possible, but I feel like a man again." And Margaret, sitting beside him, smiled and nodded with tears in her eyes. That's when I knew his journey was complete. Not because his body was perfect, but because his spirit was restored. And that, gentlemen, is what this entire conversation is about. So let's circle back to where we began. I told you that your daily routine may be quietly shrinking your penis, and Harold's story proves it. Long hours of sitting, poor sleep, processed food, dehydration, unspoken stress, all of these seemingly small choices chip away at circulation, hormones, and tissue elasticity. They don't make the changes overnight, but over years, they add up to shrinking, weakening, and loss of confidence. And too many men mistake these warning signs for just old age. But you know better. Shrinking is not destiny. It's a signal, and it can be answered. The beauty of this message is that the solutions are simple, senior-friendly, and available to you right now. Get up and move every hour, even if it's just to stretch or take a short walk. Go to bed a little earlier and protect your sleep like it's your medicine, because it is. Fill your plate with foods that keep blood flowing and arteries clear. Drink water throughout the day so your circulation stays strong. And give your mind the peace it deserves by letting go of stress through breathing, prayer, or quiet reflection. Each step may seem small, but together they rebuild the foundation of your vitality. I want you to picture Harold's journey for a moment. A man who thought he was destined to shrink away into old age, who believed intimacy was behind him, who felt he was losing part of his manhood. Yet by adjusting his routine, just little choices each day, he not only restored physical strength, but deepened the love in his marriage, lifted his confidence, and discovered joy again. That is the possibility waiting for every one of you. Not perfection, not turning back the clock, but reclaiming the strength, pride, and dignity that make you feel like yourself again. Now let me turn to you directly. If you've been listening and something inside you whispered, "That sounds like me," then I want you to do one thing right now. Leave me a yes in the comments below. Tell me if Harold's story feels familiar, if you've noticed the same quiet changes in your own life. And if not, if you feel strong and steady, then write no. Both answers matter because they guide me in shaping the conversations we'll continue to have. And while you're here, please click the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so these messages keep reaching you. Think of it as a small routine in itself, one that invests in your health and well-being. What gives me the greatest hope is knowing that men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s can still take control of their future. Every day I see patients like Harold proving it's never too late. And I want you to hold on to this truth. Your body has an incredible capacity to heal, restore, and respond to care. Shrinking is not your story's end. It is an invitation to begin again with a wiser, stronger routine. So as we close this conversation, let me leave you with a challenge. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, make one different choice. Stand and stretch instead of lingering in your chair. Swap a